The Butterfly Effect by Nikayla Sarai. Chapter 10. Back to the Past. It's fine. The words rang in Roman's ears as his fingers trembled, feeling the wool of the hat under his touch as the tingling of the merge faded from his skin. It had worked. Roman lifted his head, heart pounding in his chest as he met Patton's 100-watt smile with one of his own. The genie had said it would feel like he was actually his teenage self, but Roman hadn't expected it to feel so natural, like slipping on a pair of well-worn shoes. He lowered his hand, taking it all in. Patton, standing there, uninjured, wearing his favorite tie-dye shirt, looking at him with seeing eyes. "And the umbrella?" Roman asked, the words tumbling from his lips before he could stop them. He froze, eyes widening. No, that was what he had said last time. He wasn't going to he hadn't wanted to remind him. Patton blinked, his smile faltering as he ran a hand through his sweat-drenched curls. "Umbrella?" he whispered, hunching his shoulders. A wave of red crossed his vision like a flag waving in front of a bull. Roman gritted his teeth, fighting against his instinct to freak out. He failed. "Pat!" The door swung shut behind him as he stepped out of the building into the parking lot to prevent the cast and crew from hearing the rest of the exchange. What had the genie said? Time was a fickle thing. It didn't like to be changed. Roman grabbed his best friend's hands as soon as the door clicked, mouth opening and shutting as he fought not to say the words he could feel burning on his tongue. "You forgot the umbrella?" he choked out. "To blazes with time! He thought this would be much easier to alter." Pat winced, flushing crimson as he squeezed Roman's hands. "Oops," he whispered. Roman gritted his teeth, his fingernails digging into Patton's skin, resisting the urge to throw his hands up in the air like he'd done the first time. He wouldn't make a scene, wouldn't yell. He met Patton's eyes. His clear, blue, seeing eyes. "How is that? It was right by the door!" Pat dropped his eyes, shaking his head. I'm sorry." He tugged at his hands, trying to free them from Roman's iron grip. "It totally slipped my mind when I was getting Ellen in the car." He took a step back, toward the parking lot, increasing the distance between them as much as he could when Roman refused to let go. He couldn't let him leave. Not now. He wouldn't let Patton run towards his destiny with a driver who wouldn't see him in the intersection because of the sun shining in their eyes. "Pat, you—" His best friend twisted his wrists, slipping free. "Don't worry, Ro," he called, flashing Roman another smile as he broke into a run. "I can fix this. I'll go grab it right now." And come back blind? Come back paralyzed? No! He wouldn't just stand there this time and do nothing. "Patton!" Roman yelled, his voice cracking as he forced his leaden legs to move, cursing the tap shoes that made it that much more difficult to catch his best friend as he chased him across the parking lot. "Come back!" He had no idea where Patton had parked. How close were they to his car? He had to catch him before he drove away. Heart pounding in his chest like a drum about to go to battle, Roman snagged Patton's arm just as they reached the curb to cross the street. He pulled him back, blood pounding in his ears. There's barely 20 minutes, he gasped out, struggling to catch his breath. Patton turned, placing his hand on Roman's, giving him a reassuring smile. "And I'll be back in 15, he said, making eye contact, his bright blue eyes shining. "Promise!" No, he wouldn't. Roman shook his head, his eyes blurring. It's fine, Pat. Seriously," he said, tugging Patton back towards the theater. It's too big a risk." Patton shook his head, standing his ground. "Not for you. I've done this drive 1,000,000 times. 15 minutes. Plenty of time," he said, his tone turning pleading. "Let me fix this." He couldn't. Not in this way. Roman swallowed, You don't. There's a spare here, he said, pointing back at the theater with his free hand. Somewhere. Inside. Fix this by helping me find it. Please. Patton blinked. A spare? You never mentioned a spare before, Princey. Roman gave a half smile, shrugging his shoulders. He hadn't known about the spare until after the show the first time. You know me, Padre. I prefer to stick to one prop. But I can make it work for tonight. Help me find it. It'll be easier than risking getting you stuck in traffic. Or T-boned in an intersection. Patton chewed on his bottom lip, looking over his shoulder at the street. You're sure? He asked, finally. Roman nodded, the tightness in his chest easing. Yes. His best friend huffed, blowing his curly hair out of his eyes as he turned back to Roman. Well, Patton winked, let's go find that spare then, he said, nearly pulling Roman off his feet as he broke into a run, dragging him back towards the theater. Your audience awaits.